Shivaya Acharya ji. Good morning.
Om Shivaya.
Om
Om
Sadashiva Samarambham
Sadashiva Samarambham
Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya
Asmadparyantam
Acharya Paryantam Te Guru
Om
Paramparam
Sahana Bhavatu
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu
Karavavahi
Karavavahay Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vishavahay
Om Shanti Shanti
Om Shanti
Shanti.
Shanti Shanti.
So we had started the mantra number, the Anuvaka number 1 of Bhramananda Valli, and we had got up to Brahmana Vipascheti. So the rest of it is there, which we're starting to do. So I'll just read that out. Tasmadva etasmat atmanaha akasha sambhavuta. This is now what we have to do. Right? Akasha sambhavutaha. Akasha was first born. So now, basically what is being done is the Srishti Prakaranam. The creation, the theory of creation is being put forward. But as I said the other day, remember that the basic idea is not to focus on the creation, but to show that the creation and the creator, there is no difference. Right? And also to show that there is no difference between you and the creator. And that is why Brahman is called a Atma. Whenever you say Atma, the word Atma means I. So you will think of yourself. But whenever you say Brahman, you might think of some other object. And that is why he said, this etasmat, that Brahman, is nothing but Atmanaha, your own inner essence. That Brahman is you. And then we look at Akashaha Sambhavutaha. Sambhavutaha means Samutpannaha, born. So from Akasha, first Akasha was born from Brahman. And Brahman, of course, here means Maya Sahita Brahman, Ishvara. So from Ishvara, Akasha was first born. The first product, the first karyam is Akasha. And as we remember from Tattva Bodha, Akasha has only one guna, Shabda, sound. And here remember that the Panchabhutas are being mentioned here, right? In this particular Anuvaka, now you will find that the various elements are being mentioned. But remember that this is the very start of creation. So that is before Panchikaranam. If you recall Tattva Bodha, before Panchikaranam, what is being formed or what is being born are the subtle elements. Sukshma Panchabhutani, which is called what? Another name for it? Technical name.
Tanmatra.
Tanmatra. Tat matram. Only that. Only that means only the element without a mixture of other elements. And therefore tat matra sukshma panchabhutani. And here in his commentary, Shankara gives the individual gunas also. So he says Akashaha nam shabda gunaha. The sukshma space, sukshma akasha has been born, but it's got shabda gunaha. It's got a guna which is sound. And again, since this is sukshma, remember this sound is also, this shabda is also in avyakta avastha, unmanifest. And it can be manifested only when there is some sort of a trigger. Okay. And therefore, even all the alphabets, Shabda here means all the alphabets also, they are all there in Akasha element in unmanifest form. And when are these unmanifest alphabet sounds turned into manifest? When you pronounce the alphabet, then only from unmanifest it becomes the manifest. So the trigger for changing from avyakta avastha to vyakta avastha is the movement of your lips, the pronunciation of those alphabets. That's what makes it manifest. And this Akasha, remember, accommodates everything, right? It's not that Akasha is an element which is separate by itself. It's all pervading, and everything is accommodated in it. And that is why Akasha is very often taken as an example when we talk about Atma. Because Atma also is all pervading and accommodates everything. Okay. Now, the Brahman without any gunas is more subtle than Akasha. Okay. Akasha is the subtlest element, and we're talking about the Sukshma Akasha. So it is very, very subtle. But remember that Akasha has one guna, that is Shabdaha. The more gunas you have, the more gross the element is said to be. And therefore, Brahman has no gunas, therefore it is more Sukshmam than Akasha. Okay, one more question needs to be answered here. What is the location of Brahman or Ishvara? What is going to be in accordance with this Srishti Prakriya? We're talking about the birth of the world, birth of the universe, which starts with birth of Sukshma Pancha Mahabhutani. And supposing you ask, okay, fine, from Brahman, all these are born. From Atma, all these Sukshma Pancha Mahabhutani are born. What is the location of Brahman? What would the answer be?
Nirguna Brahman.
Location, I'm saying.
No, the
All
Saguna
pervading.
Maya is located in Brahman, right? Brahman is all pervading.
The answer is, of course, that Brahman cannot be said to have a location. And why is that?
If Akasha is in
Brahman
has to be everywhere.
its location is in context to the space and time, but there is no space born,
Very
so
good.
that
Very
you
good.
cannot say.
Whenever you say location, you are saying space. And of course, time-wise location is also there. But from Brahman, space itself, Akasha is being born. And therefore, remember that whenever we talk about pre-Srishti Brahman, there is no location at all, because you can't talk about a location, since any discussion of location needs Akasha to be existing. So pre-Srishti, you cannot talk about any location for Brahman or Atma or Ishvara. Okay, one more thing. We say that Jagat, the world, has been born from Brahman, right? Which means Brahman is both the efficient cause and the material cause. We saw this in Mundaka Upanishad, in the mantra about the spider. So Brahman is Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam, right? But to establish Jagat as Mithya, the whole purpose of the Upanishads, of all Vedantic teaching, is to first establish Jagat as Mithya, and then and by dismissing Mithya, what do you get? You get the remaining Satyam, which is Brahman. So first, we know that from other Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, that Brahman can be taken as Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam. But whenever you want to establish the Jagat as Mithya, remember you have to focus on Brahman as the Upadana Karanam only. The Nimitta Karanam is not involved in the discussion on Mithyatvam of Jagat. And the Upadana Karanam is of two types. What are they?
Vivarta and Parinami.
Vivarta Karanam, Vivarta Upadana Karanam, and Parinami Upadana Karanam. Parinami, as the word implies, there is a parinam, there is a result. And therefore, Parinami Upadana Karanam implies that the Karanam, the cause, will produce a Karyam, a product, by some sort of conversion process to actually producing a product. It's a very important point that whenever you say Parinami Upadana Karanam, the cause, the Karanam, is in some way evolving into the product. Some conversion is happening. And the message from here, which we need to understand very clearly, is that a parinami upadana karanam produces a karyam which has the same order of reality as the parinami upadana karanam. Okay, so milk is vyavaharika satyam. Milk produces curds. Curds also vyavaharika satyam. On the other hand, a vivarta upadana karanam produces a karyam which is of a lower order of reality. That is very important. And therefore, in the Rajju Sarpa example, the Rajju is not Parinami Upadana Karanam. The Rajju is the rope, right? The rope is not Parinami Upadana Karanam. The rope is the Vivarta Upadana Karanam. It produces a snake. The rope is real, right? The rope lying on the road is real. It is real in the sense Vyavaharika Satyam. The transactional order of reality, that rope exists. And that is why you can pick up the rope, you can see the rope, all those things. But it produces a snake which is of a lower order of reality, and that is why the snake can be dismissed. Had the snake been of the same order of reality, you could not dismiss the snake, right? But the rope is vyavaharika satyam, and the snake is one level lower, pratibhasika satyam. And that is possible, of course, that is possible because it has the support of ignorance. In the same way, when I go to sleep and produce a dream world, remember Nidra Shakti is an operation, right? Who is the Vivartopadana Karanam? The dreamer or the waker? It has to be
Waker.
Vivartopadana Karanam only, because the dream is a Pratibhasika Satyam.
Waker.
The dreamer is also
Yes.
Pratibhasika Satyam, and therefore the Vivartopadana Karanam is the waker, right? So in the same way, Brahman assisted by Maya Shakti becomes the Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Right? Brahman does not change. That is why Vivarta means unchanging. The Brahman or Ishvara is the unchanging part. And therefore, Brahman, when you say is the creator, is Jagat Karanam, remember that Brahman is always Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Okay. This analysis we'll see in very great detail in the Mandukya Upanishad in over 2 chapters, but anyway, that's far away. Okay. Now, what afterwards? Now, Akashat Vayuhu. From Akashaha, the next element, Vayu is born. So all this is care of Tattvabodha. And remember that when you say from Akashat Vayu is born and from Brahman Akasha is born, there is Nyaya Vaiseshika philosophy which says that Akasha, space, is eternal. And therefore this mantra here, Tasmadva etasmat atmanaha akasha sambhavota, is saying that Akasha is being born. It is not a nitya padartha, it is not eternal. It can be taken as a negation of Nyaya Vaiseshika philosophy on that subject. Okay. And this Akasha has 2 gunas. So, Dvigunaha. What is that? 2 gunas are born, but not Akasha, Vayu. The Vayu which is born now from Akasha has 2 gunas, which is out of which one is its own unique guna. Okay. This we all saw in Tattvabodha. I am just quickly going over it. So it has own unique attribute of Sparsha, and the Shabda guna is borrowed from Akasha. So Vayu which is born has got 2 gunas. One guna which is borrowed from the Karanam, Akasha, and one guna is its own. So it has got Shabda Sparshaha. The Shabda is Karana Gunaha and Sparsha is Karya Gunaha, belonging to Vayu alone. Because of this, Shabda is called the general guna, Samanya Gunaha. Samanya here means general or common. And if it's Samanya Gunaha, it is common to Akasha and Vayuhu. Therefore, Shabda is Samanya Gunaha. What is specific to Vayu is Sparshaha, which is Vishesha Gunaha. Those two terms we need to remember. We may not have talked about it in Tattvabodha. So, Samanya Guna and Vishesha Guna. Samanya Gunas are those gunas which are common to other Panchabhutanis, and Vishesha Guna is a guna specific to that particular Panchabhutan. Then the next one is Vayor Agni. All this is care of Tattvabodha. We're quickly going over it just to refresh ourselves. Now, when you say, there's a question here. When you say from Akasha Vayu was born, and before that you said from Brahman Akasha was born, are you not saying that Brahman is the Karanam for Akasha and Akasha is the Karanam for Vayu? And if that is the understanding, how can you say that from Brahman alone everything is born? This is the Purvapakshi question. He pops up here and says that at first you said everything is born from Brahman. Now you are saying from Brahman Akasha is born and from Akasha Vayu is born. So what is the answer? The answer is that Brahman, which is the cause for Akasha, is that Brahman found in Akasha also? Very simple question.
Yes, isness is there.
Definitely.
We are not talking about isness at all. We are talking about one very simple law. What is that? Karana gunaha karye anuvartate. Whatever gunas are there in the karyam is present in the karyam. And therefore, if Brahman is the karanam for Akasha, that Brahman is pervading Akasha also. And therefore, Vayu and Akasha can be said to be Brahma Rupa Akasha. Right? And therefore, from that Brahma Rupa Akasha, Vayu is born. Therefore, you can say that Vayu is born from Brahman. Because the Brahman itself is, that Akasha itself is nothing but Brahman. And similarly, from Vayu Rupa Brahman, Agni is born and so on. And therefore, Brahman is the cause for everything. So this is a Upa objection which you must remember. When you say that from Akasha Vayu is being born, basically Akasha is not different from Brahman. Because Brahman is the Karanam, Akasha is the Karyam. Karyam has to be the same as the Karanam. And therefore Akasha is also Brahman. And that is why you say that from that Akasha, Vayu is being born, which is the same as from Brahman, Vayu is being born. That is why from Brahman is there, and from everything that is born from Brahman alone. And similarly, Agni is born and so forth. And therefore, Brahman is the cause for everything. Right. Now, Brahman and Akasha have got what relationship? Karana, Karya, Sambandha. Cause-effect relationship. Right. Akasha and Vayu have got Karana, Karya, Sambandha. Vayu and Agni have got Karya, Sambandha. Remember, this Sambandha is to be correctly stated that there is a Sambandha between the Panchamahabhutanis in this manner. Which manner? That Akasha and Vayu have got cause-effect, Karana, Karya, Sambandha. Vayu and Agni have got Karana, Karya, Sambandha. You must remember, this Sambandha exists only among the Tanmatras. You cannot say the Karana, Karya, Sambandha exists between Sthula Akasha and Sthula Vayu. Why?
That's mixture of all the elements, Panchikaranam.
Right. Panchikaranam is there, and therefore once Panchikaranam sets in, You are no longer talking about Karana Karya Sambandha. Whenever you say one element has got Karana Karya Sambandha with the other element, it is always between Tanmatras. Okay, then from Vayu, Agni was born. Three gunas, two belonging to itself, to its Karanam, and the third belonging to itself, right? I'm not going to details. And from Agner Apaha, all again care of Tattvabodha, Adbhya Prithavihi, from waters, from the Apaha, Prithvi was born. Prithvi literally means earth. But here we have to take as Prithvi as Upalakshanam, a general indicator for anything which is solid matter. Right? Anything tangible, solid matter is Prithvi. Okay. So from water, Prithvi with 5 gunas were born, and those 4 out of the gunas belong to the Karanam. Why? Because water has 4 gunas, and there were 4 gunas belong to the Karanam. They are Samanya gunas, and the 5th, Gandhaha, the unique guna, this Vishesha guna, belongs to Prithvi. Okay. So we have to understand again, keeping Tattvabodha in the background, that the first to be born are always the Tanmatras, subtle elements, and then only gross elements are born. Right? So as long as the gross elements have not come, the Srishti we are talking about is the Sukshma Srishti, not the Sthula Srishti. Okay. So up to this point where he says Prithvi is born, remember it is Sukshma Prithvi. So we are talking about Tanmatras up to this point. We are talking about Sukshma Srishti, the subtle universe. The gross universe has not yet come. The gross universe you will find in the next line. Prithivya Oshadayaha. And Oshadibhyo Annam Annat Purushaha. Sava eva Purusho Anna Rasamayaha. In this line, you are talking about Sthula Srishti. Remember that in this Upanishad, the entire Panchikaranam has been omitted on the understanding that you know all about it. Therefore, this Shruti, this Anuvaka assumes that you are aware of the Panchikaranam process and it is done with. So when you start with the mantra Prithivya Oshadayaha, this Prithvi is not Sukshma Prithvi anymore. So that is carefully to be noted. Adbhya Prithvi is what? It is Sukshma Prithvi. Prithivya Oshadayaha is Sthula Prithvi. So Prithivya, from that Sthula earth, post Panchikaranam Prithvi, Oshadaya are born. All forms of plants are born. And from, of course, it means from that part of the earth where there is a conducive atmosphere for life. So Oshadi can be taken as all plants, okay, not just medicinal herbs. And Oshadibhyo Annam. From the plants, food is born. And therefore, in one manner of speaking, Shruti is indicating Oshadibhyo Annam. Food is born from plants alone. Food is vegetarian alone. That can be taken as a secondary meaning involved over here. And then Annat Purushaha. From food alone, Purushaha is born. So this Purushaha here is the Sthula Shariram. The physical body of the Jiva is being talked about. So Shankara in his commentary knows that we will have a confusion about what Purusha means, because Purusha elsewhere has been taken as what? As Ishvara himself. And therefore Shankara clarifies in his commentary that Purushaha here, in this part of the mantra, Annat Purushaha, in that part of the mantra, Purushaha means the one who has got heads and hands. Okay. So heads and hands mean he is excluding Brahman from the meaning. Brahman or Atma. And therefore here we can take Purushaha as the Sthula Shariram, physical body, either male or female. Okay. Now here Srishti Prakaranam ends. Okay. So you can see that the Shruti, is very terse in the way it is presenting. So, Annat Purushaha, there Srishti Prakram ends. Srishti Prakram ends because what is this Shariram called? This body which we have, what is another name for it?
Bhogayatanam.
No, that's the use. That's not the
Yeah.
name.
Okay.
The name is Annamaya Kosha. Okay. Physical body is also called Annamaya Kosha. Those of you who have done TTC should remember that. And therefore, from here onwards, Sava Esha Purusho Anna Rasamaya. From here onwards, there is what is called the Panchakosha Viveka Prakranam, for which the technique of Panchakosha. That is, for that alone, Taittiriya is very famous. And the entire discussion is derived from here. And what is this Purusha here? That is being clarified in Shruti itself. So he says, Sava Eshaha Purushaha Anna Rasamayaha. You have to break up properly. Sava Esha Purushaha, that Purusho becomes Purushaha when you break the Sandhi, and Anna Rasamayaha. So Anna Rasamaya is what Shankara clarifies. Anna Rasamaya means Anna Rasa Vikara. Vikara is a product. So Anna Rasa Vikara means a product in the form of Anna Rasam. Okay. Now Anna Rasam, I think we may have explained, but not too many times. So I'll give the explanation again. It's a very important explanation because this is what is found in all the Upanishads. Okay. So this Purusha is in what form? Sthula Shariram, either male form or female form. And where does this male body or female body comes from? That's why Anna Rasa Vikaraha. Vikara here does not mean change, or it can mean change also, but Vikara can be taken as product. So Anna Rasa Vikara, it's a product of Anna Rasam. Okay. What is Anna Rasam? Shastra defines Anna Rasam as Shukram and Shonitam. Okay. Shukram and Shonitam, the male semen and the female ova. So Shukram and Shonitam, that is Anna Rasam. The physical body, therefore, is made of the essence of food, is born out of Anna Rasam. How to explain that? The food which I and you eat, that food does not or cannot be directly converted into flesh or the body, right? Flesh or tissues or blood or whatever. So Shastra says that Annam, the food, enters the body of the father and becomes the male seed. Then it enters the body of the mother and then becomes the egg. Thus, it becomes Shukram, the male seed, in the father's body. After it enters, what enters? Don't forget, Annam. Okay. We are saying Annam enters the body of the father. The body converts that Annam into the semen. That semen enters the mother's body and becomes the egg. Therefore, egg is Shonitam, Shukram is the seed. Thus, in the bodies of the mother and the father, the Annam which enters, it becomes Shukram and Shonitam. Okay. The Annam entering the father's body becomes Shukram. The Annam entering the mother's body becomes Shonitam. This combination of Shonitam and Shukram is called Anna Rasamayaha. Right? At the time of conception, the Shukram, the male seed, joins the Shonitam, the female egg, and out of that joining, the child's body is born. So Shukram, Shonitam are together referred to as Anna Rasaha, and therefore the child's body is born of this product, Anna Rasaha, Shukram and Shonitam, and therefore it is called Anna Rasamayaha. You will see that it's there. Sava Esha Purusha Anna Rasamayaha. The word Mayaha, remember in Sanskrit, not Maya, Mayaha. It means product. Where else have you heard the word Maya?
Like Pranamaya, Annamaya.
Annamaya. Very
Oh,
obvious.
yeah.
Very obviously Annamaya. Product of Annam. Okay. And therefore Maya means product. Therefore Annarasamaya means product of Annarasam. Annarasam means Shukram and Shonitam, the male seed and the female egg. And therefore Annarasamayaha means born out of Annarasam. Annarasam, remember, is the seed and the egg. Hence, Shukram, Shonitam, Karyam is the physical body. Okay. Here, what has happened? This is the Bhautika Srishti, the Pancha Bhautika Srishti. All right. Now, a question may come up. Why does Shankara say that Purusha means Manushya Shariraha? Because there are other bodies which are born by the same process. The male egg, the male seed and the female egg. It's not just human bodies. Why does Shankara specify that here in this mantra, Purusha is not any animal body, but is Manushya Shariram, human body only? Shankara gives the answer. He says, only the human, Purusha, has adhikaraha over karma and jnana. Humans are prominent species because they alone are eligible for karma. And remember, this is not just karma, right? An animal walking is also karma. But when you say karma in the Shastram, it means Vaidika karma. So only a human is eligible for Vaidika karma and also for jnana. You don't find animals getting jnana. And also, therefore, free will can be manifested only in a human body. And hence Shankara says the meaning has to be taken as Purusha, meaning human body alone. And in support of this view, Shankara quotes Taittiriya Aranyakam, which I am not entering into. It's not Taittiriya Upanishad. It is Taittiriya Aranyakam. And there is a mantra. If anybody is interested, the mantra number is 2.3.2. I'm not quoting the mantra. I'll just briefly summarize the mantra. The mantra says that human beings have got 3 qualifications which are necessary for doing Vaidika karma. What is that? Desire, then capacity, and most importantly, permission from the scriptures to do the karma. Because of the free will available or which I can utilize in a human body, I can visualize and plan for the future. Because of that, I only, the Purusha only, the human being only can have the desire to attain moksha. Mumukshutvam is available only to human beings. Mumukshutvam means what? The desire to attain moksha. Whereas he says, Shankara says, animals also have got jnanam. But he writes very nicely, Pashunam ashanaya pipase eva vihi. Animals have knowledge, Pashu has knowledge. Pashu doesn't mean cow, it means animals. They have knowledge, but only as far as Ashanaya Pipase, satisfaction of hunger and thirst are concerned. Okay, all this is a commentary on what? Annat Purushaha Tava Esha Purushaha Annarasamayaha. With this commentary, the Srishti Prakarnam is over. Okay, so this was the answer to which question? All this was the answer to which question? The first question. First question was, what is Brahman? Okay. Now begins the answer to the second question. What is second question? You have to remember the questions.
How to know Brahman?
How to know Brahman was the second question. So, remember, a brief answer was given by way of vritti. Yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman. Brahman has to be recognized as the Sakshi as the witness consciousness, where Guhayam, in your own mind. Okay. And this Brahman is to be known as the witness, not as the arriving and departing thoughts. But see, because in a mind, what is there? What is normally available in a mind, which I can understand, are thoughts which come and go. So here he is saying that the Shruti says that Brahman is not to be recognized or understood as the arriving and departing thoughts, but there is something else there. It is the non-arriving, non-departing, always available consciousness, because of which all the arriving and departing thoughts are known. So that Brahman is the consciousness always available in your mind, whether there are thoughts or not. That consciousness is available. Therefore, that consciousness reveals to you the arriving thoughts, the departing thoughts, and also it reveals to you the absence of thoughts. Also, it reveals to you any gap between the arrival and departure of thoughts. That also the same consciousness reveals, and that witness consciousness is what we call the Atma. This was the explanation given in the Vritti part, the brief answer. The rest of the mantra, it gives the detailed answer to the question of how to know Brahman. So the method of knowing is presented as a special technique called Pancha Kosha Viveka Prakriya. Prakriya means technique. Pancha Kosha Viveka means the discriminative study of the Pancha Koshas. And this is going to be elaborately presented here. And therefore, this Upanishad is well known for this particular Prakriya. So from here onwards, where onwards? Tasyedam eva shiraha. From here onwards, Anuvaka is dealing with the rest of the Anuvaka. Balance of this Anuvaka is dealing with Pancha Kosha Vivekaha. So we already read this. Tasyedam eva shiraha. Ayam dakshina pakshaha. Ayam uttara pakshaha. Ayam atma. Idam puchham pratishtha. Tadapyesha shloko bhavati. This much we will see. So, tasyedam eva shiraha. So, this Panchakosha Viveka, it continues, it starts from here, from this particular part of the mantra, tasya idam eva shiraha, and continues all the way till the fifth Anuvaka. Okay, the fifth Anuvaka ends with Tadapya Shoko Bhavati, but this Panchakosha Viveka continues up to Brahma Puchham Pratishtha in the Anuvaka number 5. So it's a long way away. We will start here. Tasyedam eva shiraha. Remember, we are talking about Anuvakas. Okay. What is the chapter called in this Upanishad? Anuvaka is section. What is the chapter called?
Shiksha Valli.
Brahmananda Valli.
No. Okay. I mean, the chapter is called Valli, right? Shiksha Valli means the Valli called Shiksha. Brahmananda Valli means Valli dealing with Brahmananda. So this Valli's chapter, Anuvaka section, just remember that there is a difference between Upanishad to Upanishad. Now, to know Brahman, all Upanishads, all Shastras, they say there is only one method. And that method is what? I have to know Brahman as Aham Brahma Asmi. I am that Brahman. The Aham refers to Sakshi Chaitanya Rupa, the witness consciousness alone. So I have, normally when I say I mean the body, mind, sense complex, the RC, the reflected consciousness. And to understand Brahman, therefore, I have to leave behind the meaning of I as body, mind, sense complex and raise it to Sakshi Chaitanya. Only when my I, whenever I say I, only when I mean Sakshi, can I claim Aham Brahmasmi. I cannot claim Aham Brahmasmi as long as the word I in my usage means body-mind complex. Okay. Remember that when you say Aham Brahmasmi, Aham means Sakshi Chaitanya. You cannot say Aham Brahmasmi when your Aham means my body or my mind or my intellect or my ego. Okay. And therefore, this gap, this distance between the body, mind, sense complex and the witness consciousness, it can be said to be very, very large. And therefore, the movement from body, mind, sense complex to witness consciousness has to be small, units of travel. This gradual travel of the mind from the gross body, mind, sense complex to the subtlest Chaitanyam is achieved through this particular technique called Pancha Kosha Prakriya. And this uses a technique which is called Arundhati Darshanam Nyaya. I hope you remember. We have discussed this in detail once. There is a Nyaya, there is a technique called Arundhati Darshana Nyaya. It's a technique to take one from the grossest object to the subtlest object in a graded manner. So in this Panchakosha Viveka or Prakriya, we start from the gross body, Annamaya Kosha, then go to the next one, then go to the next one, then go to the next one. Each next step is subtler than the previous step. This is what is meant by Arundhati Darshana Nyaya. So this is part of Tarka Shastram, what is known as Arundhati Darshana Nyaya. Arundhati is a star in the sky. It's a very small star, okay, not very easy to spot. And supposing I want to tell you where that star is. It is night time. You have to imagine it is night time. And Arundhati is there somewhere. And you ask me, where is Arundhati? If I just point out my finger and say, there is Arundhati, it will not make much sense to you because there are so many stars. There's a cluster of stars around it. And therefore, you will say, which one are you pointing out? Because there's more than one star over there. So the Nyaya is that, you are imagining that you are next to a tree. So Nyaya is that I say, you look at the tree in front. Do you see the tree? And of course, of course, you will say yes. Then I say, look at the top of the tree. There are very many branches, but there is one branch which is pointing in the northern direction. Do you see that? And then you will say, yes, I see that branch. Right? You have moved from the gross tree to the gross branch. Subtler branch is subtler than the tree because smaller than the tree. And now I will say, just look at the branch carefully. Do you see a star directly in line with the branch, on top of the branch? You will say, yes, I see. Then I say, okay. Do you see a star which is immediately to the right of that star? You will say, yes, I see. Then I say, okay. Now, to the right of the star, which is the star next to the branch, look carefully. You will see a small twinkling object. Do you see? You will say, yes, I see something twinkle near that star. Then I say, that is Arundhati star. Right? Now you understand where the star is. If I had directly told you there is Arundhati, it would have been much more difficult. So, what is to be done? First, you have to pay full attention to the first step, the tree. Then you have to stabilize your vision there. Then you go to the next step, the branch. You have to stabilize your vision there. Then you go to the next step, the star. Stabilize your vision on that star. Then go to the second star. Then alone can you go to the twinkle, which is Arundhati. Okay. So at each stage, your attention has to stabilize. Once full attention has been stabilized at each stage, then only we move to the next stage. And this is the same technique to be used in Panchakosha. So Upanishad says here, in your approach, first you are going to say that the Annamaya Kosha is Atma. Okay. Atma here means what? I. Remember, whenever I say Atma, don't think of Atma as Brahman, something away from me, some other object. Atma itself means I. And therefore, Upanishad says the first step in this Pancha Kosha Prakriya is that you consider your body as I. Annamaya Kosha is going to be I. Right? So, by the same technique, once you reach the Annamaya Kosha, you steady yourself, then you say, okay, now what is the next step? Next step is the Pranamaya Kosha. Right? Remember, in the first step, the Annamaya Kosha is Atma. Okay, you. Then, when you reach to Pranamaya Kosha and you say, okay, I am Pranamaya, I am Pranamaya, that is Pranamaya, Atma, I am. We are not saying Kosha. Pranamaya, Atma, I am. That's what I'm going to say, right? First, you are saying the body is I, the Atma. Once having stabilized yourself in that position, then you say, okay, the body is not Atma, Pranamaya Kosha is Atma. Once you accept Pranamaya Kosha as Atma, that is the time when you will drop Annamaya Kosha as Atma, and therefore Annamaya becomes Annamaya Kosha. Kosha, the term Kosha is sheath. Sheath is Anatma. So until the time that you jump from Annamaya Atma to Pranamaya Atma, Annamaya remains you as the Atma. Once you say I am Pranamaya, then you say, okay, Annamaya is now a Kosha. From the Pranamaya Atma viewpoint, Annamaya is a Kosha. And so on. When you move from Annamaya Atma to Manomaya as the Atma, then for you, Pranamaya becomes the Kosha. Right? Each movement, remember that just like in Arundhati Nyaya, the object is less subtle, more subtle. So first is Annamaya, which is least subtle. Then is Pranamaya, little more subtle. Then is Manomaya, little more subtle. So as you move from Atma to Kosha, or Kosha to Atma, as each of these units is converted into Kosha, into Anatma, your mind is becoming more and more refined. And by the time we reach Anandamaya, everything has been reduced to Anatma, to Avyaktam, intangible form. This intangible is the subtlest concept, Avyakta Tattva. And that way the mind begins to understand what is meant by Avyakta. And therefore here Upanishad says, start by taking the physical body as Atma, which means start by saying, I am the body, which is the current status of most of us anyway, right? Again, I will repeat, note that at this stage, you are not taking the body as Annamaya Kosha. You are taking it as Atma. You will downgrade the body to Annamaya Kosha after rejecting it as not Atma, which is when you move to Pranamaya. Okay. So note that Pancha Kosha Viveka is the Vyakhyanam, the detailed explanation for what? That Vritti, Yo Veda Nihitam Guhaya Parame Vyoman, which was in the Rig Mantra quoted at the beginning of this Anuvaka. Now we will look at the mantra itself. Tasya idam eva chiraha. Tasya means that Annamaya Atma. We are taking Annamaya as Atma itself, the body as Atma itself. Idam eva shiraha. Right? So you can imagine that the Acharya is pointing out at the head and saying, this is the head of the Atma. And this is the well known as Shiraha, as the head. Okay. So we are talking about Annamaya Atma here with 5 limbs. So there's a Shiraha, Dakshina Pakshaha, Uttara Pakshaha, Atma, and Pucham. Shiraha is the top, Dakshina and Uttara are the sides, Atma is the middle, and Pucham is down. So these are the 5 parts of each of the Panchakoshas. So in case of the Annamaya Kosha or Annamaya Atma here, these parts are clearly visible because you can see them. They are available to your eyes. But in the case of the other koshas, they are avyakta. Pranamaya, for example, is Vayu Tattva. And Vayu does not have a shape of its own. The same case with other 4 koshas. And therefore, while in the Annamaya kosha, the 4 parts can be clearly pointed out, in the case of the other koshas, after we drop the Annamaya and move forward, you have to imagine these 5 parts. These 5 parts for all koshas excepting Annamaya kosha, the 5 parts are imaginary. Okay, with that background, Tasyedam idam eva sharaha. This is the head of the Atma. Then I am Dakshina Pakshaha. So Dakshina here means right? And in case Dakshin also means south. So in case you have a confusion, Shankara specifies Dakshina is where your right hand is located. So we are very clear, right hand is Dakshina Paksha is my right side. And logically also, why is it called Dakshina? Why is the right called Dakshina?
When you stand facing east, Dakshin.
One.
It's below the equator, on the right side of the equator.
No, equator doesn't come
No,
in here.
because we give dakshina from the right hand, is it?
No,
No,
it is that when
When
you
we
do
stand,
puja,
when you
do
stand
puja,
facing
you are
east,
facing the east, and therefore the right hand side is what? South. When you face the east, to your right hand is the south, to your left hand is what?
North.
North. Okay, that is why Uttara and Dakshina Pakshaha. So just that is the logic. Whenever you face east, which is what you do when you get up, do your Surya Namaskar, do your puja, do your prayers, you are supposed to face the sun, and therefore the right hand side is Dakshina. So I am Dakshina Pakshaha. He says the right hand side of the body is Dakshina Pakshaha. And of course, Shankara clarifies it is where your right hand is located. So Dakshina is the south direction. Your right side faces the south when you are facing the east. And then I am Uttara Pakshaha. The left side is the north part, northern side. The left side faces the north. And I am Atma. I am Atma. Atma here means, or I am means the central portion, this portion. This portion means the torso, which is connected to every part of the body. Okay. And here Shankara quotes another mantra from Aranyakam, Taittiriya Aranyakam to support the view that Atma is the middle part. Atma here means the middle part, the torso. We are not going to that. Sufficient to state that when Shankara says that I am means the central part, he says I am not saying it alone. Taittiriya Aranyakam also has a mantra which supports. So we will take here granted that I am means the middle part. And then Idam Pucham Pratishtha. Idam means the portion below the navel. And Pucham in Hindi also, Punch means tail. So Pucham means a tail, right? Pratishtha is a support. So it is like your bottom part of the body, which is a support for the body. So it's not literally meaning tail. It means the lower part of the body from the torso downwards, which is the reason why your body is able to stand. So that is a support. Idam Pucham Pratishtha, being supported by this Annamaya Shariram. Okay. And the reason is that your lower part supports your other parts. And therefore the bottom portion is called support. So Idam Pucham Pratishtha. The fifth part is the lower part of your body, which is the support for the rest of the body. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? We are talking only about Annamaya Kosha. All right. Now, the question now is, the Annamaya Kosha has got a form, right? The human form is there. And therefore, I'm able to say this is the head, this is the left-hand side, this is the right-hand side, this is the torso, and this is the bottom. Those 5 parts have been talked about. What about the other koshas? What about the Pranamaya Kosha? So, remember that the Pranamaya Kosha and as well as the other koshas, what form do they take? So Shankara says that if you pour, liquid copper, is the example he gives. If you pour liquid copper, which has no shape, into a mold to form a idol, what shape does the liquid copper take? It takes the shape of the mold. And therefore he says, this Annamaya Kosha of yours, which has got a particular shape, is the mold into which Pranamaya Atma is going to be poured. And therefore, when you come to Pranamaya Atma, you have a shape already. What is that shape? It is the shape of the Annamaya Kosha. And then the last part is Tadapyesha Shloko Bhavati. To support this, there is a Rig mantra. The Shloka here means a mantra from the Rig Veda, and that is now going to be chanted in the next Anuvaka. It is an upasana in which we visualize the koshas. And this is how we study ourselves on the first step. Remember that each one of these anuvakas is ending in tad api esha shloko bhavati. Because the last part of the mantra is tad api esha shloko bhavati, which means in this context, the following sloka is there. And therefore, the next anuvaka has to begin with, obviously, has to begin with the Rig mantra. How do you recognize the end of a Rig mantra? Because if you look at Anuvaka 2, it starts Anna Dvai Prajaha Prajayante. That is the start of the Rig mantra. But where does the Rig mantra end? How do we know?
Shanno Mitrash.
Anybody? Arvind?
No, Ravi, I don't know.
The Rig mantra will end wherever you see the word iti.
Iti.
Okay. Where do you see the word iti over here? Tasmad annam tad yuchta iti. That's where the Rig mantra ends. Okay. So just remember that in each of these shlokas, each of these anuvakas, as because the last line of the previous anuvaka says tadapi esha shloko bhavati, it starts with a Rig mantra which ends with the first iti that you see. So that we'll stop. Any questions?
Acharya, why is this shloka is there here? Tadavyesha shloka.
Shloka means a Rig mantra is being quoted in the next anuvaka to support this particular viewpoint that is being put forward.
Okay. Because usually these we call mantras, right? This.
Well, this is also part of a Upanishad, so we don't question. We simply accept the interpretation.
Okay. Thank you, Acharya.
Okay, I request you to, seriously go over this because, as I said, this is the only chapter which deals with Jnanam. It's a very, very important chapter. Each of this, each line of this Anuvaka must be engraved in your mind. Then you'll be able to follow what it really means. With this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamada Purnamidam
Purnamidam
Purnat Purnamadachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya
Purnasya
Purnam
Purnamadaya
Eva Vasishyate
Vasishyate
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
Om
Thank
Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om
Namah
Om.
Shivaya.